So now we can get into the actual answer behind how much sets you should be doing per exercise, and the truthful answer may be unexpected. In the gym, it's not only about the exercise, the time, the weight, or even the frequency. It also matters how much you do. And this very problem has been a constant question for gym goers and exercise pundits alike because of the simple fact that truthfully, most of the population does not have an answer. There are constantly articles being published and studies being done, but still the people are misinformed. And it could end up costing them big time, which we do not want, because we're here to get healthy. We all are.
So we all live a life in the night. Pray to God, man, I hope I don't die. I've been awake for days, so we all live a life.
Alright, so before we get into answering the question, we have to actually define the crux of the problem, and that is, why are sets actually being debated? Because intuitively, wouldn't a greater amount of sets mean a greater amount of muscular stimulus? Well, I mentioned several times that there's a stark difference between the volume we do and our muscular capacity. See, muscular capacity is defined as the actual work the muscle can do in terms of its force production. And now that's classified into either the weight, because that's a direct measure of force production, or the reps, because that's just a challenge in force production over time after a certain threshold. However, there's another aspect of weightlifting, and that's our volume. And the key distinction is that volume is not a test of muscular capacity because it's a choice we make. The amount of sets we do is a choice we make, not a biological limit. Our volume does not directly produce stimulus. See, volume is merely defined as an instance of producing muscular stimulus. But undoubtedly, you will find influencers who, due to the want for clicks or genuine lack of knowledge, actually will tell you that more volume means more stimulus. This is a lie, and we can quickly debunk this. An individual who performs 3 sets of 8, 7, and 6 reps on the bicep curl with 15-pound dumbbells will likely come back to the gym the next session and perform slightly better because of the previously accrued challenge. However, if that same individual adds another set and achieves 5 reps, it does not signify growth in the muscle because it was not a direct function of muscular capacity. The end goal is obviously muscular stimulus, which is achieved through a test in muscular capacity, which we have outlined to be a challenge in either reps or weight. The amount of times we challenge our capacity is known as volume, which is our sets, and not a direct driver of muscle growth. So even though sets are not a direct driver of muscle growth, then why is there such a hustle to figure out the right amount? Well, if you've taken a basic economics class, you're going to know the answer to this one. It's a law of diminishing returns. See, for each set you do, the benefit per set decreases with each one, meaning that there is a diminished return. We can see here that with each set, the additional benefit provided is less than the previous set, and past a point, sets actually begin to become counterproductive due to a number of physiological reasons that we will cover. A crucial part of the growth process is muscle recovery. And while an additional set would do well to stimulate the muscle, they do put a dent in our overall recovery and systemic recovery simply because of the additional effort. Sets begin to become harmful when the added recovery time outweighs the additional stimulus due to the set. The fact of the matter is that sets come at a cost. This is why you see guys like Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates working so hard to lower their volume, even doing sometimes 1 set per exercise. And the data checks out, with literature from the NIH reporting that no studies to date have demonstrated that a higher endogenous anabolic response, or the increased response to high volume, actually was proportional to muscle mass. Now, before we move on to actually answering the question, I need to make something abundantly clear. For every set you do, there is absolutely a guarantee that recovery will be needed to compensate for that set because of the fact that, again, effort was exerted, work was done, and tension was produced. But there is absolutely zero guarantee the muscle was stimulated to full potential unless you follow the principles of intensity for muscle training. The thing is, we've already established that you have a limited number of sets. Now it's up to you to make those sets count. So now we can get into the actual answer behind how much sets you should be doing per exercise, and the truthful answer may be unexpected, so make sure you understand the basis behind what we're about to say. Now, you've already definitely outlined that with every set you do, there are both pros and cons, and eventually the cons will outweigh the pros. Now, we can narrow our range down to find an answer with physiological analysis. In a perfect world, only one set should be enough to invoke muscular stimulus, assuming we train hard enough with intensity. At this point, we have stimulated the muscle enough that, as Mike Mentzer and Dorian Yates would have said, there is no need to do any more. But the thing is, we're not perfect. Breathing wrong, moving wrong, and even just gripping wrong can affect our output, leading to a less than ideal stimulus, which is why most people do multiple sets. They want to compensate for the error that might have happened on the previous sets. Accounting for imperfection, we can choose to do around 2 to 4 sets while noting the rough yet relevant estimate of added recovery time. If we pass a certain threshold, we genuinely reach dangerous territory with the amount of sets we do. And the principles that we observe generally line up with what the literature says. Not only is this number a great guideline to follow, it also makes a bunch of practical sense. Because imagine if we were doing junk volume in the gym. There would not only be additional denser recovery, but there would be time wasted, depleted energy for other muscle groups, and limiting factors aside from muscular failure, such as cardio, would come about within your workout. We must keep set number at a point where stimulus is maximized while other expenses are minimized. But remember, just like with every single question and answer in the gym, there is always going to be variance in the individual needs of people and with the topic itself. So we're going to address them as needed. Now, the first one we're going to address, guys, is the concept of supersets. And while they get so much controversy, I genuinely do not understand the hate around them. A superset involves going from one exercise directly to the other with a minimal resting period, often used in an effort to conserve time, or for some purposes, mix endurance training into the workout. It's mostly done in a loop, with people doing 2 to 4 sets of the entire superset, meaning that they're still following the recommended guidelines. I will say there are some caveats to doing supersets. You don't want to blindly do them. The first one is that you don't want to do them on compound exercises, because these are exercises which will target multiple muscle groups at one time and will greatly fatigue your overall system. And the other is somewhat related. It's that you don't want to do superset with the same muscle groups for the same reason that if you go right from an exercise to another with the same muscle group, your strength levels will not be ideal per set. It's going to end up being a test of local endurance rather than actual strength training. Now, guys, the next one is going to be drop sets, and these are a bit more restrictive in what we can and cannot do. Now, drop set just involves dropping the weight after muscular failure to squeeze out some additional stimulus from the set. Now, assuming you're in the gym for both strength and hypertrophy, if a drop set is done on every single set, eventually, on the next working set, you will begin to be tired, again, reducing your strength output. So you want to save drop sets for the last set of the exercise, so no working sets are affected, and no strength stimulus is again affected. And the last variable here is going to be people doing different amount of sets for different exercises. Now, honestly, this one comes down entirely to your efficiency. Most people will do higher amounts of sets for compound exercise because compound exercise involves more muscle, but we just learned that the amount of muscle mass has relatively nothing to do with the amount of volume you should do. Of course, you should follow the outlined guidelines, but just like in the gym and in life, there's always going to be variance based on your need and your wants. So you're going to want to embrace those needs, act by them, and stay focused on the ultimate goal, which is progress.